The first law presented in this text is never outshine the master. This law advises individuals to make those in positions of authority or superiority feel comfortable and superior. To achieve this, one should avoid displaying their talents or skills to an extent that might threaten or intimidate their superiors, as it could result in inspiring fear and insecurity. The key idea is to make one's masters appear more brilliant than they actually are, ultimately leading to gaining power. The text provides examples of both the transgression and observance of this law. For instance, it mentions the downfall of Nicolas Fouquet, who attempted to impress King Louis XIV with an extravagant party but ended up making the king feel insecure and was subsequently imprisoned. On the other hand, Galileo successfully navigated this law by strategically aligning himself with the Medici family through his discoveries, which led to him gaining their support. The law emphasizes that those in positions of power often have insecurities and the desire to appear more intelligent, witty, and charming than those around them. Hence, one should be careful not to outshine them, either by being themselves or by taking their master's favor for granted. Instead, individuals should employ discreet flattery, ascribe their ideas or achievements to their masters, and avoid making them feel inferior. The text also mentions the possibility of reversing this law, where individuals are advised to selectively outshine a falling superior, but not to risk outshining a feeble one. The ultimate goal is to be patient and wait for the natural fading of their superior's power, allowing them to outlive and eventually outshine their superiors. In summary, never outshine the master is a law that advises individuals to be cautious in how they present themselves and their abilities to those in positions of authority, as doing so could lead to negative consequences or backlash. Instead, the law recommends subtly elevating the status and confidence of one's superiors to gain and maintain power. The law presented in this text, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies' judgment, advises against overly trusting friends and instead suggests leveraging the judgment and loyalty of former enemies. It highlights the potential pitfalls of trusting friends too much, such as betrayal and complacency. It illustrates this principle through historical examples, such as Emperor Michael III and his best friend Basilius, and emphasizes the importance of discernment when dealing with friends and enemies. In summary, the text warns against blind trust in friends, recommends being cautious and aware of the potential dangers, and suggests that sometimes it is wiser to work with former enemies who have more to prove and are driven by self-interest. It underscores the need to maintain a certain distance and strategic approach when dealing with both friends and enemies in the pursuit of power. The third law discussed in this text is about concealing your intentions to maintain an advantage over others. By keeping your true purposes hidden, you can manipulate situations to your advantage. To implement this law effectively, one should use decoyed objects of desire and red herrings to divert people's attention and create confusion about your true motives. Two examples are given to illustrate this law. In the first example, a seasoned courtesan teaches a young man how to seduce a woman by using various tactics to keep her off balance, confused, and intrigued. However, when the young man prematurely declares his love, he reveals his true intentions and loses his advantage. In the second example, Otto von Bismarck, a politician, uses a speech to deceive the Prussian parliament and the public by appearing to support a cause he actually detests, preventing a war he believes Prussia would lose. His false sincerity and misleading signals help him achieve his true goal, strengthening the Prussian military and unifying Germany under Prussia's leadership. The text emphasizes the importance of concealing intentions by appearing open and honest while actually using these qualities as a disguise to manipulate and control situations. It highlights the power of creating decoys and distractions to divert attention and make your true objectives less obvious. In this part of the book, the author discusses the concept of using smoke screens to disguise one's true intentions and actions. Deception is portrayed as a valuable strategy, and the author emphasizes the importance of diverting people's attention away from your real purpose. This can be achieved by presenting a bland and inconspicuous exterior, which distracts from your true intentions. The author provides examples, including a story about a con artist and a real estate deal, as well as an account of a historical political maneuver in Ethiopia. The core idea is that a smoke screen can be created by appearing ordinary and unremarkable, which lulls people into a false sense of security, making it easier to lead them into a trap. The author also discusses various tactics for creating effective smoke screens, such as using a noble gesture, establishing patterns, and blending in with the surroundings. The chapter concludes by cautioning against overusing colorful and conspicuous diversionary tactics, as they can wear thin and lead to suspicion. It suggests that those with a reputation for deception should consider embracing their identity as honest rogues or repentant rogues to continue their strategies effectively. This law emphasizes the power of saying less than necessary. When you use fewer words, you appear more mysterious and powerful. Talking too much can make you seem common and out of control, while brevity can make what you say appear more profound. The story of Coriolanus illustrates this principle, as his political ambitions and verbose speeches led to his downfall. Louis XIV, known for his minimalistic speech, used this tactic to keep others off balance, maintain his power, and learn more about those around him. In general, practicing silence and speaking less than necessary can enhance your influence and authority. However, be cautious, as silence may not always be the best strategy, and context matters. In certain situations, talking more can serve as a smokescreen or distraction to make others underestimate you and allow for deception. This passage from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power emphasizes the importance of reputation and how it can be a powerful tool. It provides several historical examples to illustrate the impact of reputation, including the story of Zhuge Liang, P.T. Barnum, and others. The passage suggests that a well-crafted reputation can protect you, enhance your presence, and influence how others perceive you. It also highlights the significance of maintaining and protecting your reputation, as well as using tactics like rumor spreading or associating with those who have a positive reputation to your advantage. The passage concludes by stating that there is no possible reversal for this law. Reputation is always critical and should be carefully managed. This passage from the 48 Laws of Power emphasizes the importance of drawing attention to yourself to gain power and influence. The main points are: 1. Stand out. To be successful, you must be conspicuous and make yourself a magnet of attention. You should appear larger, more colorful, and more mysterious than others. 2. Surround your name with the sensational and scandalous. Create an unforgettable and controversial image. Court scandal and notoriety, as any kind of attention will bring you power. It's better to be attacked than ignored. 3. Examples of individuals who courted attention successfully, such as P.T. Barnum, who used hoaxes and eccentricities to draw crowds and maintain public interest. 4. The quality of attention is irrelevant. Both positive and negative attention can work in your favor. 5. To stay in the limelight, constantly renew your method of courting attention and surprise the public to keep them interested. 6. The passage emphasizes the importance of being seen, as what is not seen is considered irrelevant. Display and ostentation can fill gaps, cover deficiencies, and give you a second life in the eyes of the public. In summary, the law advises that to gain power and influence, you must court attention, be unforgettable, and make yourself a focal point of interest, even if it means being controversial or scandalous. In part 2 of the text, the author discusses the importance of creating an air of mystery to attract attention and gain power. The key points are: 1. The power of mystery. In a world that has become familiar and banal, what is mysterious instantly draws attention. People are naturally curious and intrigued by the unknown. 2. Mystery creates anticipation. Maintaining an air of mystery not only captivates people's attention but also creates anticipation. They will be eager to see what happens next or to learn more about you. 3. Examples of mystery. Mata Hari, a famous dancer, used mystery to her advantage by changing her background and telling conflicting stories about her origins. Her enigmatic persona made her the center of attention in Paris. 4. Subtle mystery. You don't need to be grand or awe-inspiring to create an air of mystery. Subtle, everyday actions that are hard to interpret can also be effective. People around you will be intrigued and constantly try to understand you. 5. Mystery and power. An air of mystery can make the mediocre appear intelligent and profound, whether in art, personal behavior, or leadership. It draws attention, excites the imagination, and can even strike fear into others. 6. Creating an aura of mystery. If you're in a situation where you need to create an aura of mystery, engage in actions that cannot be easily explained or interpreted. This can unsettle your opponents and inspire fear, making your forces seem larger and more powerful. 7. Balance and reversal. As you rise to the top, you must adapt your approach. An air of mystery should be measured and playful, not taken to extremes that may harm your reputation. There are times when you should avoid drawing attention, especially when it may challenge the reputation of those above you. 8. Case of Lola Montez. The example of Lola Montez illustrates the need to avoid appearing overly greedy for attention. Excessive attention seeking can signal insecurity and drive power away. It's essential to know when to step back and not compete, especially in the presence of higher authorities. In summary, the text emphasizes the power of mystery in attracting attention and gaining influence, while also cautioning against going too far with it and knowing when to be discreet. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. This law advises using the wisdom, knowledge, and efforts of others to further your own goals and projects. By doing so, you save time and energy, giving you an aura of efficiency and speed. While those who assist you will be forgotten, you will be remembered. The law warns against doing work yourself when others can do it for you. It provides two historical examples, one of Nikola Tesla and the other of Peter Paul Rubens, highlighting the importance of taking credit for others' work and the strategic use of other people's labor. The key to power in this law is recognizing that there are vultures circling, looking to benefit from your creativity and efforts. Therefore, it's essential to protect your work, seize credit, and use the skills and knowledge of others. The law encourages standing on the shoulders of giants, making the most of the knowledge and wisdom of the past, and using the work of others to enhance your own reputation. The reversal of this law advises caution when taking credit for work that others have done, especially if your power is not firmly established. In such cases, pushing others out of the limelight can backfire. It's also crucial to know when sharing credit serves your purpose. If you have a superior, graciously giving credit for your own accomplishments to those above can be a strategic move. In summary, Law 7 emphasizes the importance of taking credit for others' work to enhance your reputation and use the knowledge of the past to appear more knowledgeable and skillful than you might be. However, it's essential to be cautious and strategic in doing so. Law 8. Make other people come to you, use bait if necessary. This law emphasizes the strategic advantage of making your opponents come to you rather than pursuing them. By luring them with enticing opportunities or situations, you can gain the upper hand. When others are drawn to you, they abandon their plans and become more vulnerable, enabling you to control the situation and maintain a position of strength. The story of Napoleon's escape from Elba and his return to power illustrates the power of this law. Talleyrand, Napoleon's former foreign minister, masterminded Napoleon's escape by subtly manipulating him and letting him take the bait. This allowed Talleyrand to regain control and lead the European powers against Napoleon. The key to this law is to create a situation where your opponents feel compelled to respond, but you control the terms and have the upper hand. It's about using psychology to make others come to you, demoralizing them, and forcing them into a reactive position. However, there are situations where a fast and aggressive attack can also be effective, depending on the circumstances. The choice between making others come to you or striking quickly depends on the specific context, your strengths, and your goals. Both approaches can be valuable tools in your strategic arsenal. The law win through your actions, never through argument emphasizes the power of demonstrating your ideas through actions rather than engaging in arguments. Arguing often leads to resentment and ill will, while actions have a more lasting impact. The stories provided illustrate the transgression and observance of this law. In the first story, the military engineer's argument over a battering ram led to dire consequences, highlighting the pitfalls of arguing with superiors. The second story features the vizier, who uses a clever ruse to spare his life, demonstrating the principle of indirect persuasion. Finally, Michelangelo's subtle approach with the stone columns and the story of Amasis and the footbath illustrate the effectiveness of demonstrating your point indirectly and symbolically. The law advises avoiding arguments, especially with superiors, and instead focusing on demonstrating the correctness of your ideas in a way that is clear and inoffensive. The text outlines the principle of avoiding people who have a negative and infectiously miserable influence on your life, while seeking the company of those who are happy and fortunate. It tells the story of Lola Montez, a woman who brought disaster and instability to those around her due to her emotional instability. The text emphasizes the importance of being cautious about associating with such infectious individuals, as they can draw you into their problems and affect your own life negatively. The text also highlights the idea that people who exude positive qualities, such as good cheer, can have a beneficial influence on those around them. It suggests that associating with positive individuals can improve your own disposition and outlook on life. The key lesson is to be selective in your associations and to avoid people who bring misery and trouble, as their negative influence can be harmful. Conversely, surrounding yourself with positive and successful individuals can help you thrive and achieve greater happiness and success. The passage you provided discusses the importance of making people dependent on you for various purposes. It gives examples from history and fables to illustrate the concept. The fundamental idea is that by making others rely on your skills, knowledge, or services, you gain power and influence. This can be achieved by being indispensable in some way, whether through a unique talent or by creating a sense of dependency in your relationships. The text highlights that true power is not achieved by complete independence, but rather by creating relationships of dependence. The narrative also emphasizes that when you make others dependent on you, you should focus on being indispensable, as this offers more security and freedom. It provides examples from history, such as Otto von Bismarck's political strategy, and anecdotes, like the story of Harry Cohn in Hollywood, to illustrate the point. Additionally, it mentions the potential risks of seeking complete independence and power. In summary, the text advises that true power comes from creating relationships of dependence and making yourself indispensable to others, rather than trying to achieve complete independence. The law of use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim's judgment suggests that strategically employing honesty and generosity can be an effective way to lower someone's guard and manipulate them. The concept is exemplified through stories of Count Victor Lustig, a skilled con artist, and historical examples. The core idea is that an honest and generous gesture can disarm even the most suspicious individuals. It is vital to create a reputation for honesty and generosity through calculated acts that, when done correctly, can break down a target's resistance and make them more open to manipulation. However, the reversal of this law suggests that if you have a history of deceit, abruptly acting honestly and generously can be suspicious. In such cases, you may need to continue playing the rogue to maintain trust or camouflage your deceptions effectively. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. This law emphasizes that when you need assistance or favors from others, it is essential to focus on appealing to their self-interest rather than relying on their mercy or gratitude. People are typically more responsive when they perceive personal benefits or gains in helping you. This law discourages relying on emotional appeals and urges a pragmatic approach to seeking assistance. The book provides examples illustrating the importance of understanding the psychology of the person you are dealing with and customizing your request to align with their self-interest. It highlights that most individuals are primarily motivated by self-interest, and when you frame your appeal in terms of how it benefits them, they are more likely to assist you. The law also mentions that not everyone responds positively to appeals based on self-interest, as some people prefer to be seen as charitable or noble. In such cases, you should provide them with opportunities to display their generosity. Ultimately, the key to implementing this law is to grasp the specific self-interests and motivations of the people you are seeking help from and to craft your requests accordingly. This law advises against overly relying on emotional or gratitude-based appeals and encourages a more practical, self-interested approach. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. This law advises individuals to use a friendly facade to extract valuable information from others. It highlights the importance of being knowledgeable about your rivals, as this knowledge provides an advantage in any power dynamic. You should aim to become skilled at uncovering people's weaknesses and intentions discreetly. By doing so, you can remain one step ahead of your competitors. The observance of this law is illustrated through the story of Joseph Duveen, a prominent art dealer, and his efforts to win over industrialist Andrew Mellon as a client. Duveen employed various tactics, including secretly gathering information about Mellon's habits and tastes, befriending Mellon's staff, and eventually orchestrating a chance meeting with Mellon at a museum. Through careful observation and preparation, Duveen was able to make Mellon his most generous client. The interpretation of this law emphasizes the importance of controlling future events by gathering information on your rivals. It provides strategies for becoming a skillful spy in social situations, including making allies by showing genuine interest in others, using others to gather information, and carefully analyzing people's reactions and behavior. Key takeaways from this law include the use of disinformation, testing people to reveal their character, and the potential for gaining a significant advantage by having the right information at the right time. The law suggests that you can manipulate situations by knowing more about your rivals than they know about you. Overall, this law encourages individuals to be strategic and observant, using their friendly demeanor to gain insights into the intentions and weaknesses of those they interact with. This law emphasizes the importance of completely crushing your enemies to ensure your own security and victory. It cites historical examples and advice from various leaders, highlighting the risks of leaving even a small part of your enemy intact, as they may seek revenge. The key takeaway is that mercy and reconciliation can backfire when dealing with enemies, and it's often better to ensure their total defeat. Two historical examples illustrate this point. 1. The rivalry between Xiang Yu and Liu Pang in ancient China. Xiang's hesitation to eliminate his rival, Liu Pang, allowed Liu to survive and eventually defeat Xiang, highlighting the consequences of not fully crushing an enemy. 2. The rise of Empress Wu in ancient China, who used ruthless tactics, including murder and deception, to eliminate her rivals and secure her power. She understood the importance of not leaving any potential threats to her rule. The law advises that your enemies must have no options, forcing them to submit to your will. Negotiation and leniency can erode your victory, so the only path to security is through their complete defeat. It's a strategy that transcends the battlefield and applies to various aspects of life. The law also recognizes that there may be situations where allowing your enemies to self-destruct or leaving them an escape route could be beneficial. Still, the general principle is to crush your enemies to ensure your own power and security. In summary, this law stresses the importance of decisiveness and thoroughness when dealing with enemies to maintain your power and protect yourself from future threats. The passage from Law 16 discusses the concept of using absence to increase respect and honor. It emphasizes that too much presence or visibility can diminish your value, and becoming scarce can create an aura of respect. This principle is applied in various contexts, including love, economics, and politics. The passage tells the story of Guillaume de Ballon and Deoses as examples of how people strategically used absence to their advantage to regain respect and influence. It also highlights that knowing when to withdraw is crucial in maintaining power and respect. In summary, the passage suggests that strategically using absence after establishing a strong presence can increase your value and respect. It provides examples and explanations from different perspectives to illustrate this concept. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Suggests that people are creatures of habit and seek familiarity in others' actions. When you are predictable, others feel in control. However, to gain an advantage or intimidate, you should deliberately act unpredictably. By behaving inconsistently or erratically, you keep people off balance, forcing them to expend energy trying to understand your motives. This unpredictability can lead to a sense of intimidation or confusion in your adversaries. The law is exemplified through the story of a chess match between Boris Spassky and Bobby Fischer, where Fischer's unpredictable behavior rattled Spassky, leading to his eventual defeat. Fischer's unexpected moves and actions disrupted Spassky's ability to predict and understand his opponent's strategy. The key to power here is to use unpredictability to maintain the initiative and unnerve your opponents. Unpredictable behavior can create confusion, leading to an advantage. It can be used by both those in positions of power and those who are in a weaker position, as seen in the example of General Stonewall Jackson during the American Civil War. The reversal of this law is that predictability can also work in your favor by creating a pattern for others to become comfortable with, allowing you to surprise them when needed. However, overusing unpredictability can be detrimental and may be perceived as indecisiveness or instability. In summary, the law of unpredictability advises using unpredictable behavior strategically to maintain an advantage and keep others off balance. But it should be applied judiciously, as excessive unpredictability can have negative consequences. This law advises against isolating oneself and building fortresses as a means of protection. It argues that isolation can be more dangerous than being exposed to potential threats. The law cites historical examples, including the first emperor of China, Shi Huangtai, who became so isolated that he was ultimately poisoned by his own ministers, and a story from Edgar Allan Poe's The Mask of the Red Death, where isolation leads to disaster during a plague. The law suggests that true power and security come from social interaction and the ability to circulate among people. It uses Louis XIV as an example, highlighting how he maintained control by keeping himself at the center of court activities and by being aware of everything happening around him. The law also mentions Cicero and Talleyrand as examples of individuals who thrived by making connections and staying in touch with various social circles. The law concludes by cautioning against the dangers of excessive isolation, emphasizing that it can lead to a loss of perspective, an obsession with detail, and a breakdown in communication. It suggests that power is increased by contact with others and advises against falling into the fortress mentality. Finally, it mentions that temporary isolation can provide perspective but warns against succumbing to strange and perverted ideas. In summary, this law argues that isolation is dangerous, and true power comes from social interaction and circulation among people. Law 19, titled Know Who You're Dealing With, Do Not Offend the Wrong Person, emphasizes the importance of understanding the various types of individuals you encounter and exercising caution when dealing with them. It highlights that not everyone reacts the same way to strategies, and some people may hold grudges or seek revenge if they are deceived or offended. The law categorizes different types of individuals, including the arrogant and proud man, the hopelessly insecure man, Mr. Suspicion, the serpent with a long memory, and the plain, unassuming, and often unintelligent man, each with their own unique characteristics and potential dangers. The transgressions of this law are illustrated with a historical example involving Genghis Khan and Muhammad, where Muhammad's arrogance and refusal to consider a peaceful offer led to a brutal conflict with Genghis Khan, resulting in the downfall of Muhammad's empire. In summary, Law 19 advises individuals to be cautious, respectful, and discerning in their interactions with others, as underestimating someone's potential for retaliation can lead to unexpected and severe consequences. Transgression 2 tells the story of J. Frank Norfleet, a man who, after falling victim to a con artist ring in the 1910 seconds, took it upon himself to seek revenge and justice. When Norfleet was swindled out of $45,000 instead of quietly accepting the loss, he pursued the con artists relentlessly. He went to great lengths to track down and apprehend the individuals involved in the scam, even traveling across the United States and to other countries. Over the course of 5 years, he managed to dismantle the entire con artist ring and put its leaders behind bars. This pursuit, however, came at a significant cost, bankrupting Norfleet and ruining his marriage. The interpretation highlights the concept that individuals who are excessively insecure or deeply offended by deception can go to great lengths seeking revenge and justice, regardless of the personal cost. Transgression 3 narrates an incident from ancient China in which a prince, Chang'er, who had been treated rudely by a ruler while in exile, later returned to power and sought revenge against the offending ruler. The story illustrates the danger of insulting or mistreating others, as those who are seemingly powerless today might become influential figures in the future. The lesson here is that it's best to avoid unnecessarily offending or underestimating people, as you never know how their circumstances may change over time. Transgression IV recounts an attempt by a group of art dealers in 1920 to sell a collection of paintings to Henry Ford. Despite their efforts to impress him with an elaborate presentation, Ford declined to buy the paintings and even refused to accept them as a gift. The interpretation underscores the importance of understanding the desires and perspectives of the person you're dealing with. The art dealers failed to recognize that Ford was content with the reproductions in the books they had presented and didn't see the need for the original paintings. The lesson is to tailor your approach to the individual rather than making assumptions about their preferences or desires. Interpretation. Joseph Duveen prided himself on studying his victims and clients in advance, figuring out their weaknesses and the peculiarities of their tastes before he ever met them. He was driven by desperation to drop this tactic just once in his assault on Henry Ford. It took him months to recover from his misjudgment, both mentally and monetarily. Ford was the unassuming plain man type who just isn't worth the bother. He was the incarnation of those literal-minded folk who do not possess enough imagination to be deceived. From then on, Duveen saved his energies for the Mellons and Morgans of the world, men crafty enough for him to entrap in his snares. Keys to power. The ability to measure people and to know who you're dealing with is the most important skill of all in gathering and conserving power. Without it, you are blind. Not only will you offend the wrong people, you will choose the wrong types to work on, and will think you are flattering people when you are actually insulting them. Before embarking on any move, take the measure of your mark or potential opponent. Otherwise, you will waste time and make mistakes. Study people's weaknesses, the chinks in their armor, their areas of both pride and insecurity. Know their ins and outs before you even decide whether or not to deal with them. 2 final words of caution. First, in judging and measuring your opponent, never rely on your instincts. You will make the greatest mistakes of all if you rely on such inexact indicators. Nothing can substitute for gathering concrete knowledge. Study and spy on your opponent for however long it takes. This will pay off in the long run. Second, never trust appearances. Anyone with a serpent's heart can use a show of kindness to cloak it. A person who is blustery on the outside is often really a coward. Learn to see through appearances and their contradictions. Never trust the version that people give of themselves. It is utterly unreliable. Image, the hunter. He does not lay the same trap for a wolf as for a fox. He does not set bait where no one will take it. He knows his prey thoroughly, its habits and hideaways, and hunts accordingly. Authority. Be convinced that there are no persons so insignificant and inconsiderable, but may, some time or other, have it in their power to be of use to you, which they certainly will not, if you have once shown them contempt. Wrongs are often forgiven, but contempt never is. Our pride remembers it forever. Reversal. What possible good can come from ignorance about other people? Learn to tell the lions from the lambs or pay the price. Obey this law to its fullest extent. It has no reversal. Do not bother looking for one. Law 20 emphasizes the importance of not committing to anyone's judgment or getting entangled in others' conflicts. It uses historical examples, like Queen Elizabeth I and Isabella d'Este, to illustrate the power of remaining independent and aloof. By not committing to any side or cause, you maintain control, gain attention, and make yourself a desirable figure. The law encourages the use of charm, gifts, and diplomacy to stay neutral while appearing supportive. The key to power is to avoid getting drawn into others' battles and maintain your autonomy, ensuring that your moves are of your own choosing, not reactions to the conflicts around you. In a market, a cat and a dog fight over a stolen cheese. They decide to seek a fox as a mediator who cunningly eats the cheese while pretending to divide it. This story illustrates the strategy of withholding involvement in conflicts to gain an advantage when others are exhausted. It emphasizes the wisdom of not hastily committing to a side in disputes and suggests that maintaining independence and self-reliance can lead to respect and power. Additionally, it warns against taking this strategy too far, as excessive manipulation may backfire and cause others to unite against you. In summary, the story conveys the importance of strategic patience and maintaining one's autonomy in dealings with others. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Highlights the strategy of making others believe they are more intelligent and sophisticated than you, even if you are more intelligent. By appearing less intelligent, you can lower their guard and create opportunities for deception. This law emphasizes that people dislike feeling less intelligent than others and will let their guard down if they believe they are smarter. The story of Asbury Harpending and the diamond mine illustrates this principle in action. Harpending and his team pretended to be naive and outsmarted everyone by making them think they were foolish, which led to the successful deception. The key to power in this law is making others feel superior to you, which can disarm their suspicion and create opportunities for manipulation. This tactic can be especially effective in situations where you need to gain an advantage or deceive others. The reversal of this law suggests that you should downplay your intelligence and sophistication in most situations to maintain an advantage. However, there are times when you can use your intelligence to cover up deception or reassure others in a knowledgeable and authoritative manner, as demonstrated by Joseph Duveen in the art world. In summary, Law 21 advises the strategic use of appearing less intelligent to manipulate and deceive others while making them feel superior and more intelligent. The 22nd Law, use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power, advises that when you find yourself in a weaker position, it is often wiser to surrender rather than engage in a futile battle for honor. Surrender provides you with the time to recover, wait for your opponent's power to wane, and find opportunities to regain control. This approach allows you to undermine your conqueror, irritate them, and avoid giving them the satisfaction of a direct victory. The law uses historical examples to illustrate its point, such as the Athenian invasion of Milos and Bertolt Brecht's dealings with the House Un-American Activities Committee. It also emphasizes the importance of maintaining your flexibility and long-term maneuverability over short-lived glories of martyrdom. However, it acknowledges that there are situations where surrender may not be an option, and martyrdom might be the only way out. In such cases, the law recommends that you consider the unpredictable and violent nature of martyrdom and advises against seeking it willingly. Instead, the focus should be on staying alive to seize future opportunities. In essence, the law suggests that when facing adversity or a stronger opponent, it's often more strategic to surrender. Bide your time, and transform your apparent weakness into a position of strength when the opportunity arises. This passage, from Robert Greene's book The 48 Laws of Power, discusses the importance of concentrating one's forces and energies on a single, powerful source to achieve success and avoid ruin. It provides examples from history, such as the downfall of the kingdom of Wu in ancient China due to the king's ambitious and scattered pursuits. It contrasts this with the success of the Rothschild banking family, who concentrated their power and influence through unity and exclusivity. The passage emphasizes the need for single-mindedness, total concentration on goals, and attaching oneself to a single, appropriate source of power. It also highlights the risks of overconcentration and suggests that sometimes dispersion is the right strategy. In summary, the key message is to focus on intensity over extensity, and to choose the right balance between concentration and dispersion of one's efforts. This passage outlines several key principles for navigating the court and pleasing your master, drawing from historical anecdotes and observations. 1. Mastery of court politics. The ideal courtier must excel in a world where power and political maneuvering are paramount. This requires mastering the art of indirection, flattery, and graceful assertion of power. 2. Court society. Courts have always revolved around power and hierarchy. Courtiers serve to please the ruler and solidify the social structure. 3. Manipulation. Successful courtiers are masters of manipulating people, making the king feel important and others fear their power. 4. Politeness and discretion. Courtiers should be gracious, polite, and avoid rudeness. They must be frugal with flattery and avoid being overly critical. 5. Adaptation. Courtiers need to alter their style and language depending on the person they are dealing with. They should be observant about themselves and their own behavior. 6. Indirect criticism. When criticism is necessary, it should be delivered indirectly and politely to avoid offense. 7. Limit favors. Courtiers should be frugal in asking for favors and know when to stop. Earning favors is more effective than constantly seeking them. 8. Avoid joking about appearance or taste. It's wise to avoid joking about a person's physical appearance or taste, especially those above you. 9. Be a source of pleasure. Courtiers should aim to be a source of delight and pleasure, as this makes them indispensable. 10. Master your emotions. Courtiers should master their emotions, being able to control their expressions and reactions as necessary. 11. Adapt to the spirit of the times. Staying in tune with the current culture and norms is important. Standing out too much can be a disadvantage. 12. Subtle critique. To critique your master or those in power, you must use symbols and indirect methods to avoid direct confrontation. 13. Don't overstep. Avoid doing more than what is asked of you. Going above and beyond can sometimes lead to suspicion. 14. Gift of talent. Use your unique talents to benefit your master, which can lead to personal advancement. 15. Limit requests. Don't ask for too much, and don't push your luck when it comes to receiving gifts or favors. 16. Gifts and dreams. Be cautious about the dreams you present to your master, as they may backfire. These principles illustrate how courtiers in a historical context navigated the complex world of the court, pleasing their masters while avoiding missteps that could lead to their downfall. These scenes illustrate the delicate game of courtship and the importance of managing relationships and appearances in a courtly environment. Scene X shows the painter J.M.W. Turner's awareness of the need to placate and maintain good relations with his fellow painters. He adjusted his masterpiece to prevent offending a colleague, demonstrating the significance of avoiding envy and resentment among equals and subordinates. Scene XI depicts Winston Churchill's response to criticism from the American publisher Henry Luce, showcasing how even those of higher stature should be careful not to offend people of power or influence. Churchill's subtle response demonstrates the value of playing the obliging courtier. The delicate game of courtship uses the example of Talleyrand's practical joke on Napoleon to emphasize the importance of maintaining appearances and avoiding detection in courtly interactions. Talleyrand's manipulation of the situation highlights the need for courtiers to be skilled in their maneuvers and to keep their devices hidden, as any exposure could damage their reputation. In summary, these scenes emphasize that in a courtly environment, managing relationships, avoiding envy, and carefully controlling appearances are crucial for success as a courtier. Law 25 encourages you to recreate yourself and take control of your public image. It emphasizes the importance of acting, creating a memorable character, using drama, and mastering the art of appearances to influence and manipulate your environment. This law also underscores the significance of self-consciousness, timing, and suspense in making your actions and words more impactful. The second part, Observance of the Law I, illustrates how individuals like Julius Caesar used dramatic gestures, events, and timing to their advantage, creating larger-than-life personas to garner public support and enhance their power. Observance of the Law II tells the story of George Sand, who successfully recreated herself by adopting a male persona, allowing her to control her identity, defy societal limitations, and engage with famous male artists. The narrative showcases the power of self-creation and the ability to adapt one's character for maximum effect. The Keys to Power section highlights the importance of self-awareness and self-control, the creation of memorable characters, the use of suspense, and the orchestration of events to influence and manipulate others effectively. It draws parallels to how artists and writers have used self-creation in their work, emphasizing the power of controlling your image and narrative. The section on reversal states that there is no real reversal to this law. It emphasizes that bad theater is simply bad theater, and one should avoid overacting or histrionic gestures when attempting to influence and manipulate others. In summary, Law 25 guides you in understanding the art of recreating yourself, controlling your image, and using theatrical techniques to influence and manipulate your surroundings effectively. The passage you provided discusses the use of scapegoats in the context of maintaining power and reputation. It emphasizes the idea that powerful individuals or leaders often resort to scapegoating to deflect blame for mistakes and protect their image. The text offers historical examples and strategies related to scapegoating, including 1. Concealing mistakes. The text argues that one's reputation is more dependent on concealing mistakes rather than revealing them. It advises maintaining a spotless appearance by shifting blame to others. 2. Scapegoats as convenient blame targets. It suggests that individuals in positions of power should always have a scapegoat ready to take the blame when mistakes occur. 3. Historical examples. The text provides historical examples, such as General Cao Tsao and Cesare Borgia, who use scapegoats to handle difficult situations and maintain their power. 4. Types of scapegoats. The text discusses two types of scapegoats, those who are entirely innocent, and those who were used as tools to carry out difficult tasks and then were disposed of. 5. Scapegoats as warnings. Scapegoats can also serve as warnings to others, demonstrating the consequences of conspiring against a leader. 6. Sacrificial victims in history. Historical examples are given, like the scapegoats used by the Athenians and Aztecs in religious rituals, and Cardinal Richelieu's execution of an innocent man to indirectly punish a real conspirator. 7. Choosing innocent scapegoats. The text suggests that it's often wise to select the most innocent victim possible as a scapegoat, as they will not be powerful enough to fight back. 8. The fall of the favorite. The passage highlights the practice of kings having personal favorites at court who could be easily sacrificed to protect the king's reputation. 9. Wisdom in concealing mistakes. The text closes with a quote from Baltasar Gracian, underscoring the wisdom in concealing mistakes and the importance of reputation management. In summary, the text explores the use of scapegoats as a means of protecting one's image, reputation, and power in various historical and political contexts. It discusses different types of scapegoats and strategies for effectively implementing them. In this passage, the author discusses the concept of using a cat's paw or a scapegoat to achieve one's goals and maintain power. The term cat's paw refers to someone who does the dirty or dangerous work for you, allowing you to achieve your objectives without taking direct responsibility or blame. The author provides various historical and fictional examples to illustrate this concept. The author emphasizes the importance of using cat's paws with caution and subtlety. It's a strategy to deflect blame or manipulate others, but if not handled carefully, it can backfire. The passage also mentions the idea of reversing the situation, where you might take the blame yourself in certain circumstances to achieve your objectives or maintain control. The passage highlights the power dynamics and strategic thinking involved in maintaining authority and achieving one's goals, especially in situations where appearances and perceptions play a significant role. Summary: this passage discusses the tactics employed by charlatans and cult leaders to create and maintain a following. It emphasizes the importance of manipulating people's desire to believe in something and offers 5 key steps to create a cult-like following. 1. Keep it vague and simple. Use vague promises, unclear concepts, and enthusiastic language to attract followers. 2. Emphasize the visual and sensual. Use visual and sensory experiences to captivate and distract followers, preventing them from questioning the cult's ideas. 3. Borrow the forms of organized religion. Structure the group like a religious organization, create rituals, and establish a hierarchy to provide a sense of sanctity. 4. Disguise your source of income. Conceal the true source of wealth and power, making it seem like it comes from the cult's principles rather than the followers' contributions. 5. Set up an us versus them dynamic. Create an enemy or opposition to unite your followers and maintain their loyalty. The passage also provides 2 historical examples of individuals who successfully employed these tactics to build followings and cult-like devotion. The passage discusses the stories of 2 individuals, Shupach and Mesmer, who used various tactics to gain followers and manipulate people's beliefs and emotions for their benefit. Shupach relied on natural remedies and the power of belief to create a cult-like following, emphasizing the importance of engaging people's will and exploiting the appeal of nature. Mesmer, on the other hand, used the concept of animal magnetism to attract followers in Paris, turning his demonstrations into theatrical spectacles. He harnessed the power of group dynamics and played on people's repressed sexuality to captivate his audience. The key takeaway is that both Shupach and Mesmer demonstrate the power of belief, group dynamics, and the ability to manipulate individuals or crowds for personal gain. The passage also highlights the potential dangers of deceiving a group, as they can turn against the manipulator if their deception is exposed. Law 28. Enter action with boldness. This law advises that if you are unsure about taking a particular course of action, it's better not to attempt it. Doubts and hesitations can undermine your execution. Instead, embrace boldness. If you make mistakes due to audacity, you can correct them with more audacity. People admire those who act boldly and rarely respect those who are timid. Several historical anecdotes illustrate the power of boldness in various contexts. Boldness and hesitation. A brief psychological comparison. Boldness and hesitation lead to different psychological responses. Hesitation creates obstacles, while boldness eliminates them. Bold actions often hide deficiencies and weaknesses, making them more convincing, especially in negotiations. Lions circle around hesitant prey, as people can sense weakness. Boldness generates fear and authority, making you appear larger and more powerful. Hesitation creates gaps and doubts, while boldness obliterates them. Boldness separates you from the crowd and draws attention. Observances of the law. Observance I recounts the story of how con artist Count Victor Lustig successfully scammed several scrap metal dealers by convincing them to buy the Eiffel Tower. The story emphasizes that larger-than-life deceptions, like selling iconic landmarks, can be highly effective because their audacity distracts from their inconsistencies. Observance 2 shares the story of Ivan the Terrible, who, as a child, seemed timid and powerless but, through a calculated bold move, managed to secure his authority and instill fear in his adversaries. Observance 3 describes how the boldness of Pietro Aretino, a former scullion who wrote a satirical pamphlet ridiculing prominent figures in Rome, brought him fame and opportunities. The story illustrates how bold actions can lead to recognition and respect. The observances suggest that boldness can be cultivated and used strategically, particularly in negotiations, to set higher prices and assert your value. Timidity is not natural and can be harmful. To gain respect, you should overcome your fears and engage in audacious actions. The reversal reminds us that while boldness is a valuable tool, it should be used tactically and not turned into a pattern of behavior. An excessive focus on boldness can lead to undesirable outcomes. On the other hand, you can strategically feign timidity to lure others in before making your bold move. Law 29 in Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power emphasizes the importance of planning all the way to the end, taking into account potential consequences, obstacles, and changes in circumstances. This law is illustrated through historical examples, such as Vasco Núñez de Balboa's pursuit of gold and Otto von Bismarck's efforts to unify Germany. The key takeaways from this law are: 1. The ending is crucial. Your plan should extend to the final outcome, and you should consider potential challenges that could reverse your efforts. 2. Avoid vague and open-ended dreams. Focusing on a broad, unclear objective can lead to missteps and misjudgments. Instead, plan with clarity and specificity. 3. Anticipate dangers and consequences. Consider the long-term impact of your actions and plan for how to mitigate risks and challenges. 4. Maintain flexibility. While planning to the end is crucial, you should also build in alternatives and be open to adapting your strategy when necessary. 5. Reversal and adaptation. Be prepared to adjust your plan if circumstances change, but do not let vague goals or a lack of foresight lead you to constant improvisation. The law underscores the importance of foresight, strategic thinking, and the ability to adapt when faced with unexpected challenges. The passage you provided emphasizes the importance of making your accomplishments appear effortless and natural. It draws from examples of historical figures such as Sen no Rikyū, Harry Houdini, and Talleyrand, who concealed the effort behind their actions to enhance their power and mystique. The passage encourages the idea that appearing to work easily and gracefully creates an aura of power and impresses others. In summary, the key points of this passage are: 1. Conceal the effort behind your actions and make them appear effortless. 2. Do not reveal your tricks or the hard work that goes into your achievements. 3. Emulate the power of nature, which appears effortless and awe-inspiring. 4. Keep your abilities unknown and create an air of mystery around your actions. 5. Use sprezzatura, an appearance of nonchalance that conceals artistry and effort. 6. Use partial disclosure of tricks and techniques strategically to involve and engage your audience. This passage underscores the importance of the perception of effortlessness in achieving and maintaining power and influence. The essence of this passage from the 48 Laws of Power is about controlling and manipulating people's choices and options to your advantage. It provides various techniques for achieving this, such as: 1. Color the choices, presenting options in a way that makes the one you prefer seem the most attractive. 2. Force the resistor, pushing someone to choose what you want by appearing to advocate the opposite. 3. Alter the playing field, changing the conditions so that your preferred option is the only logical choice. 4. The shrinking options, gradually reducing the available choices to pressure someone into making a decision. 5. The weak man on the precipice, creating fear and urgency to manipulate a weaker individual into taking the desired action. 6. Brothers in crime, involving the person who can harm you the most if your deception fails, thereby ensuring their silence. 7. The horns of a dilemma, forcing someone to choose between two unfavorable options, both of which benefit you. The passage also emphasizes that giving people the illusion of choice can be a powerful tool in manipulating them, and that limiting their options can sometimes be counterproductive. It uses historical and anecdotal examples to illustrate these concepts. This passage discusses the power of playing to people's fantasies and how fantasy can be a source of pleasure and allure. It emphasizes that fantasy is most effective when it remains distant, vague, and ungraspable. The text provides historical examples, such as the story of the alchemist Bragadino in Venice and the con artist George Psalmanazar in England, who manipulated people's fantasies to gain power and wealth. It also warns that while fantasy can be powerful, there is a danger in promising results and not delivering. The passage ultimately highlights the importance of understanding and tapping into the fantasies of the masses to gain influence and control. In Law 33, the idea is that everyone has a vulnerability, whether it's an insecurity, an uncontrollable emotion, a need, or a secret pleasure. These vulnerabilities can be thought of as thumbscrews, which, when discovered, can be used to manipulate or gain an advantage over someone. This law emphasizes the importance of recognizing and exploiting these weaknesses in others to achieve your goals. It's a reminder to be observant and strategic in your interactions with people. Finding the thumbscrew, a strategic plan of action. We all have resistances. We live with a perpetual armor around ourselves to defend against change and the intrusive actions of friends and rivals. We would like nothing more than to be left to do things our own way. Constantly butting up against these resistances will cost you a lot of energy. One of the most important things to realize about people, though, is that they all have a weakness, some part of their psychological armor that will not resist, that will bend to your will if you find it and push on it. Some people wear their weaknesses openly, others disguise them. Those who disguise them are often the ones most effectively undone through that one chink in their armor. The fable tells the story of a lion chasing a chamois with the help of a fox, but eventually resulting in the lion's downfall. In observances of the law, the text emphasizes the importance of understanding and exploiting people's weaknesses to gain an advantage. It provides various strategies for identifying and manipulating weaknesses, such as paying attention to gestures and unconscious signals, finding the helpless child within individuals, looking for contrasts in behavior, finding the weak link in groups, and exploiting uncontrollable emotions. The other passages provide examples of individuals who successfully use these principles. In one example, the Things On describes a con artist who exploited people's greed and desires. In Observance 2, Count Lustig exploited a businessman's insecurities to sell him a fake money-making machine. Observance 3 tells the story of Catherine de Medicis using her flying squadron of young women to manipulate and control men by exploiting their passions and obsessions. Finally, Observance IV describes how art dealer Joseph Duveen manipulated Arabella Huntington's desire for social recognition and appreciation of art to make her a significant art collector. The overall theme across these passages is the strategic use of knowledge about people's weaknesses to gain power, influence, and control in various situations. The text discusses the art of exploiting people's weaknesses and vulnerabilities to gain power or influence over them. It provides two examples, one involving Joseph Duveen, who successfully manipulated Arabella Huntington's need for validation to make her a devoted client, and the other involving Otto von Bismarck, who played on King William's insecurities to convince him to take bold actions in building up the army and creating a German empire. The text emphasizes that exploiting weaknesses can be an effective strategy but also warns about the potential dangers, such as people going too far or becoming emotionally unpredictable when their vulnerabilities are manipulated. It advises those seeking power to be cautious and not get carried away with control. The text presents the Law 34, be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one. It advises that projecting confidence, a regal demeanor, and a belief in your own greatness can influence how others treat you. It provides examples, such as the downfall of Louis Philippe, who downplayed his regal status and lost respect, and Columbus, who used self-confidence to gain support for his voyages. The text suggests that projecting dignity and making bold demands can help establish your worth and earn respect. It also warns against arrogance, excessive separation from others, and vulgarity, which can be counterproductive. The reversal part of the text cautions against taking the regal pose to the extreme, as seen in the example of Charles I, who lost his head due to his stiff kingliness. It emphasizes that the goal is to radiate confidence, not arrogance, and not to alienate or offend others by appearing too regal. It also mentions that extreme vulgarity can be dangerous and may lead to being easily replaced by someone worse. The law of timing and judgment emphasizes the importance of mastering the art of timing. It highlights the need to appear patient, be perceptive about the spirit of the times, and learn to wait for the right moment. This law is demonstrated through historical examples of individuals like Joseph Fouch, who strategically navigated the turbulent times by adapting his actions to the prevailing circumstances. The law emphasizes that there are three kinds of time: long time, forced time, and end time. You must learn to manage each type effectively. Long time requires patience, waiting for opportunities and building a solid foundation. Forced time is about manipulating the timing of others to your advantage. End time involves acting swiftly and decisively to conclude a situation. In conclusion, mastering the art of timing and judgment involves controlling time rather than being controlled by it. This law has no reversal, as failing to understand or utilize proper timing can have significant consequences. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. This law advises that acknowledging a petty problem or your enemies can give them credibility and make them stronger. To gain an upper hand, it's often best to leave things alone and show contempt for something you want but can't have. The more indifferent you appear, the more superior you seem. The provided interpretation and historical examples emphasize the power of ignoring and showing contempt for irritations and annoyances. By doing so, you maintain your superiority, control the situation, and avoid giving the problem or enemy more attention and strength than they deserve. It's also crucial to distinguish between minor issues that will naturally resolve themselves and problems that require careful monitoring. Applying contempt publicly while quietly addressing the issue privately ensures that it doesn't grow into a more significant concern. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. In this law, it is emphasized that striking imagery and grand symbolic gestures can create an aura of power and influence. The key idea is to stage spectacles filled with arresting visuals and radiant symbols to captivate and engage those around you. By dazzling people with appearances and visual displays, you can divert their attention from your true intentions, allowing you to operate more discreetly and effectively. This law is illustrated through historical examples, such as Cleopatra's dramatic arrival in a golden barge down the river Cydnus and Diane de Poitiers's transformation into the symbol of the Roman goddess Diana. Both of these figures use compelling visual elements to enhance their power and influence. The law advises that words can be risky when trying to persuade or assert power, as they invite reflection, argument, and resistance. Visual images and symbols, on the other hand, have immediate emotional impact, effectively bypassing doubt and resistance, making them a powerful shortcut to people's hearts and minds. The law also highlights the significance of arranging things visually, including the use of color and symbolism, to create resonance and emotional responses. Visual associations, symbols, and imagery are essential tools for leaders and individuals seeking to establish themselves as powerful figures. It is suggested that one can create new combinations of symbols and images to convey unique ideas and messages, and that the order in which visual elements appear can influence their symbolism. The law concludes by emphasizing the importance of organizing grand spectacles and events that captivate and distract people, as they are naturally drawn to what is grand and spectacular. By understanding the power of images and symbols, you can exert greater influence and control over others. There is no possible reversal to this law, as ignoring the use of images and symbols would mean missing out on a significant source of power and influence. The essence of Law 38, think as you like but behave like others, can be summarized as follows. It advises individuals to avoid openly displaying unconventional or controversial ideas and behaviors, especially in situations where they may be misunderstood or provoke hostility. Instead, it suggests blending in with societal norms and conventions, reserving one's uniqueness for sharing with a select few who can appreciate it. The text provides historical examples of individuals who faced consequences for openly defying conventions, and it underscores the importance of subtlety and conformity for maintaining power and influence. In essence, the law suggests that while it is essential to think freely and hold personal beliefs, there are strategic benefits to adopting the appearance of conformity and not challenging conventional norms, especially in the pursuit of power and influence. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Judgment, anger, and emotion are strategically counterproductive. You must always stay calm and objective. But if you can make your enemies angry while staying calm yourself, you gain a decided advantage. Put your enemies off balance. Find the chink in their vanity through which you can rattle them, and you hold the strings. This passage contains various stories and teachings about the management of emotions, especially anger, and how to use it strategically. Here's a summary of the key points and stories. 1. Itakura Shisemun and the tea ceremony. Itakura Shisemun, a judge and tea ceremony enthusiast, used grinding tea as a way to maintain composure and impartiality during court proceedings. He did this to avoid scolding people for unclear evidence and to ensure justice was done impartially. Grinding tea allowed him to gauge his emotional state. If he got excited, the tea wouldn't be ground evenly. 2. Napoleon and Talleyrand's conspiracy. Napoleon reacted angrily to a conspiracy involving his foreign minister Talleyrand, leading to a public outburst. His emotional response harmed his image and revealed weakness, marking the beginning of his decline. The lesson here is that anger in response to conspiracies can undermine one's power, and that controlled, strategic responses are more effective. 3. The Monkey and the Wasp. The story illustrates the consequences of uncontrollable anger. The wasp's anger led to its own destruction, showing that anger is often counterproductive. 4. Haile Selassie and Ras Gugsa. Haile Selassie strategically manipulated Ras Gugsa, provoking him to take actions that would eventually lead to his own downfall. This demonstrates the concept of not taking actions personally and manipulating others' emotions to serve your interests. 5. Sun Pin and the ambush. Sun Pin used psychological tactics to manipulate the enemy into attacking prematurely, leading to their defeat. By controlling emotions and perceptions, he achieved a strategic advantage. 6. Ditch High Priest. The story shows how a simple nickname led to increasing anger and a loss of control, eventually resulting in the nickname Ditch High Priest. It serves as a cautionary tale about the effects of personal anger. 7. Keys to power. Anger often makes individuals look ridiculous and is a sign of helplessness. Nothing in the social realm is truly personal. It's rooted in past experiences and emotions. The powerful keep their emotions in check and use others' emotional responses to their advantage. Fate. Reversal. The story of Alexander the Great's siege of Tyre illustrates how stirring up powerful opponents can backfire if they have overwhelming strength. One must choose their battles carefully, knowing when to provoke a reaction and when to avoid it. Well-timed bursts of anger can be strategically useful when controlled and infrequent. The overall theme is the importance of managing emotions, particularly anger, and using it strategically when necessary to maintain power and control. Uncontrolled and frequent displays of anger can be counterproductive and weaken one's position. The text you provided contains multiple anecdotes and stories related to the theme of money and power, as well as strategies for achieving and maintaining power. Here is a summarized version of the text. Law 40. Despise the free lunch judgment. What is offered for free is often dangerous or comes with hidden obligations. True worth is worth paying for. Pay your own way to avoid gratitude, guilt, and deceit. Paying the full price is often wise. There are no shortcuts to excellence. Generosity is a sign of power. Buried treasure warns against falling for treasure hunting scams and delusional beliefs in buried treasures. Such activities have no scientific basis and are often fueled by laziness and inability to make a living. Money and power. In the realm of power, everything has a price. What is offered for free or at bargain rates may come with psychological costs. The powerful protect their independence and maneuvering room by paying the full price. Generosity can be a strategic tool to gain power and allies. Money is a powerful psychological tool and can be used to charm and manipulate. The greedy fish. Greedy individuals who focus solely on money can alienate others and be easy targets for manipulation. The bargain demon. Obsessively seeking bargains can lead to wasted time and anxiety. The sadist. Financial sadists use their power over money to assert dominance and torment others. The indiscriminate giver. Generosity should be used strategically and not be driven solely by a desire for admiration. The worth of money. The story of a miser who hoarded his money and found out that its worth is not just in its possession, but in its use. Transgressions of the law. Stories illustrating violations of the principles discussed earlier. Observances of the law. Stories highlighting the importance of strategic generosity in gaining acceptance and influence, even when you are an outsider. These anecdotes emphasize the relationship between money and power, the strategic use of generosity, and the psychological aspects of wealth and influence. Observance 3. The passage discusses how the Medicis of Renaissance Florence, particularly Lorenzo, used patronage of the arts to distract people from their banking wealth and align themselves with the nobility of art and culture, making them seem more noble and less focused on money. Observance IV. Louis XIV used strategic generosity to manipulate the powerful nobility by making them dependent on his largesse, which made it easier for him to gain their support and allegiance. Observance V. The story of Fushimiya and the teacup illustrates how the perception of an object's value can be influenced by sentiment and emotion, rather than intrinsic value or price. Observance VI. Akimoto Suzutomo's story highlights the importance of paying the full price for something, as trying to save a small amount can lead to a poor impression and a damaged reputation. Observance 7. The story of Lord Date Masamune and the gourd emphasizes the power of giving gifts that go beyond material value and create a memorable, emotional impact. Reversal. This section discusses the idea that what is offered for free is often a trick, and it warns against falling for the lure of a free lunch, as it can lead to swindling and deception. It also advises using the prospect of easy money to bait deceptions, as people's greed can blind them to other factors. Overall, these observances in the reversal provide insights into the power of perception, sentiment, and generosity in various situations, whether in politics, art, or personal interactions. They suggest that mastering these aspects can lead to greater influence and success. This passage from A Pocket Mirror for Heroes by Baltasar Gracian, as well as the related historical anecdotes, emphasizes the importance of not being overshadowed by a famous predecessor or parent. It advises individuals in such situations to create their own identity and legacy by deviating from the path laid by their predecessors. This involves discrediting their legacy and establishing oneself through unique achievements. The examples of Louis XV, who squandered his inheritance, and Alexander the Great, who aimed to surpass his father's accomplishments, illustrate the potential outcomes of such situations. The text also touches on the idea that individuals who start with very little have a greater drive to succeed, while those who inherit power or privilege may become complacent. It suggests that psychological detachment from the past and a willingness to chart a new course are essential for stepping out of a famous predecessor's shadow and achieving greatness. In addition, the text briefly mentions the relationship between chess and the unconscious desire to overcome one's father, which may be related to the fear of success and the pressure that comes with it. It references the case of Paul Morphy, a chess champion, whose rapid rise to success and subsequent collapse might have been influenced by the fear of the real-world consequences of his achievements. The text discusses various strategies and approaches to gaining and maintaining power, with a focus on dealing with the influence of predecessors and rivals. In many ancient societies, kings were executed to prevent them from becoming too powerful and to allow a new order to establish itself. The text suggests that one way to escape the shadow of the past is to belittle it, stirring up resentment against older figures. It also emphasizes the importance of distinguishing oneself from predecessors through symbols and rituals. Additionally, it warns against blindly following the past and advocates reacting to circumstances as they happen. The text also mentions the importance of not becoming the father figure one initially rebelled against and staying vigilant as one grows older. Finally, it suggests that those in power should keep an eye on younger rivals and find ways to keep them in check, preventing them from challenging one's authority. The example of historical figures like Napoleon III and Joseph II is used to illustrate these concepts. Law 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter, emphasizes the importance of identifying and dealing with troublemakers or individuals who disrupt group harmony. This law draws upon historical examples, including the Athenian practice of ostracism and Machiavellian tactics, to illustrate the effectiveness of isolating or banishing those who cause problems. The key message is that dealing with the source of trouble, rather than its symptoms, can prevent the escalation of issues within a group. The text also highlights the significance of isolating individuals in positions of power who have become alienated or vulnerable, as they can be influenced or used to further one's own goals. It emphasizes the importance of striking at leaders or key figures, as their removal can lead to confusion and disarray, making it easier to achieve your objectives. Furthermore, the text offers a word of caution against applying this law without proper consideration of your own position and vulnerability to retaliation. It suggests that when implementing this law, it should be done from a position of superiority to avoid potential revenge from the isolated individual. In summary, Law 42 advises strategic actions to maintain power and influence by isolating or removing disruptive figures and leaders who pose a threat or challenge to your objectives. Law 43, work on the hearts and minds of others. Summary, this law emphasizes the importance of soft persuasion over coercion. Instead of forcing people to do your bidding, it suggests that you should win their hearts and minds to make them your loyal allies. To achieve this, it recommends operating on individuals' emotions, playing on their likes and fears, and considering their unique psychologies. Ignoring the feelings of others can lead to resentment and opposition. The law provides historical examples like Cyrus's strategy to win over the Persians and the downfall of Marie Antoinette due to her indifference to the needs and sentiments of her subjects. The key takeaway is that effective persuasion involves understanding and appealing to people's emotions and psychological weaknesses. Interpretation. This law highlights the importance of emotional intelligence and empathy in dealing with others. It advises against using coercion and force to get your way, as it often leads to resistance and hostility. Instead, by recognizing and addressing people's emotional and psychological needs, you can win their loyalty and support. The law suggests that individuals who feel understood and valued are more likely to be cooperative. Observance of the law. The story of Chuko Liang in ancient China exemplifies the observance of this law. Instead of confronting the threat of the barbarian king directly, Liang chose to win the king's heart and mind through a series of strategic and empathetic actions. By understanding the king's emotions and psychology, Liang was able to transform the king from a formidable enemy into a loyal ally. Keys to power. To effectively apply this law, consider the following keys. 1. Emotional intelligence. Develop your emotional intelligence to understand the feelings and motivations of others. This will enable you to tailor your approach to their emotions. 2. Empathy. Cultivate empathy to connect with people on a deeper level. Show that you understand their needs and concerns. 3. Appeal to self-interest. Highlight how your actions benefit others' self-interest. People are more likely to support you when they see personal gains. 4. Artistic expression. Utilize artists or intellectuals who can convey your message in a compelling and imaginative way. 5. Play the numbers game. Expand your support base to strengthen your influence. The more allies you have, the more resilient your power becomes. Reversal. There is no possible reversal to this law. It underscores the timeless importance of understanding and appealing to the emotions and psychologies of others for effective persuasion and influence. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect judgment. The mirror effect is a powerful psychological strategy that involves mirroring your enemies, behaving in a way that reflects their actions or desires. By doing so, you can disarm or infuriate them, making them overreact, while giving the illusion that you share their values. This technique operates on basic human emotions and has various applications. 1. The neutralizing effect. This strategy involves mirroring your enemy's actions to blind them from your true intentions. By playing a game of mimicry, you unsettle them and make it difficult for them to predict your moves. This technique is useful for shielding your own strategy and setting traps. 2. The shadow effect. You shadow your opponent's every move without their knowledge to gather information. It's a valuable tool for gaining insights into their habits and routines, often used by detectives and spies. 3. The narcissist effect. This involves psychologically mirroring another person by reflecting their values, desires, and spirit, which can make them feel entranced and disarmed. People rarely see the world through others' eyes, so this technique is highly effective in social and business situations. 4. The moral effect. Instead of using verbal arguments, this strategy mirrors what others have done to you, making them realize the consequences of their actions. It can teach them a lesson without direct confrontation, often used by educators, psychologists, and those dealing with unpleasant behavior. 5. The hallucinatory effect. This technique creates a perfect copy of an object, place, or person to deceive others. It's often employed by con artists and those in need of camouflage. The observances of mirror effects provide historical examples and case studies of these strategies in action, showing how they can be used effectively. For instance, Alcibiades used the mirror effect to tailor his behavior to the desires and fantasies of those around him, gaining their favor and trust. Similarly, Marie Mancini used the seducer's mirror to reflect Louis XIV's romantic ideals, capturing his heart. In summary, the mirror effect is a versatile psychological strategy that can be used to disarm, manipulate, and influence others by mirroring their desires and actions. However, it should be used cautiously and discriminately, as overuse can lead to resentment and suspicion. Observance IV. In 1538, Ivan IV, the future Tsar of Russia, witnessed the boyars, the princely class, terrorize the country after his mother's death. They would mock him by making him wear a crown and scepter and placing him on the throne, exposing his helplessness. When Ivan was 13, he murdered the boyar leader and became Tsar. He struggled to subdue the boyar's power and even abdicated briefly, replacing himself with a powerless ruler. This tactic taught the boyars a lesson about their disobedience. Ivan eventually returned to power and his reign improved. Interpretation. Ivan IV used a mirror strategy to deal with his disobedient subjects. He mirrored their disrespect by placing a weak pretender on the throne, showing them how it felt. This strategy forced the boyars to recognize their actions' ridiculousness, and they eventually begged Ivan to return to power. The lesson here is that mirroring behavior can teach people a lesson more effectively than verbal complaints. Observance V. Dr. Milton H. Erickson, a psychotherapist, used indirect methods to help couples resolve issues. Instead of direct confrontation, he would create analogies to make patients see the truth themselves. For example, in a session about sexual problems, he discussed the couple's eating habits, finding an analogy to their issues. He encouraged them to arrange a dinner combining their preferences, mirroring improved dynamics. Interpretation. Dr. Erickson's approach involved creating symbolic mirrors of his patients' issues to help them understand and resolve their problems. Using analogies and indirect methods can be more effective in addressing sensitive subjects and facilitating self-discovery. Observance VI. Sen no Rikyu, a Japanese tea master, had the ability to harmonize with his guests' thoughts and desires. He used subtle gestures to create a sense of perfect harmony with his guests. Even when faced with practical jokes, he complied with his host's wishes and entered into their world, gaining pleasure from the interaction. Interpretation. Sen no Rikyu's power lay in mirroring his guests' desires and adapting to their preferences. He created an atmosphere of harmony and delighted in complying with his host's wishes. This observance emphasizes the importance of understanding and mirroring the unspoken desires of others to create rapport and harmony. Observance 7. Yellow Kid Weil, a con artist, used the deceiver's mirror to carry out elaborate cons. He recreated fake banks and businesses that closely resembled real ones, complete with props, actors, and staff. He deceived wealthy individuals into depositing money, all while maintaining the appearance of a legitimate operation. Interpretation. Weil's strategy involved mirroring reality by creating convincing facades that people naturally trust. The power of this deception lies in the initial moment when people do not question the authenticity. Mirroring the world's surfaces and appearing like any other entity can be a potent tool for manipulation and deception. This observance highlights the effectiveness of mirroring appearances to gain trust and deceive. A warning: beware of mirrored situations. This section cautions against falling into situations that closely resemble previous events or associations, as they can affect how others perceive you. The example of Richard Wagner being compared to Lola Montez demonstrates how unintended associations can harm your reputation. Interpretation. Avoid mirrored situations where you are compared to past events, people, or associations, especially if they have negative connotations. Unfavorable comparisons can damage your reputation and hinder your objectives. It's essential to separate yourself from such memories and shatter the reflection to maintain your autonomy and image. The law mentioned here, often referred to as Law 45, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once, emphasizes the importance of maintaining the semblance of the old while implementing change. It points out that people generally desire change in theory but are resistant to major upheavals in their routines and traditions. The law illustrates this through historical examples, such as the case of King Henry VIII and Thomas Cromwell, as well as the tactics employed by Mao Zedong in China. The interpretation of this law highlights the idea that profound reform can lead to a reaction against it, and that too much change can be unsettling for people. The text advises those in positions of power to anticipate and manage this reaction by disguising change and making it seem like a gentle improvement on the past. It also underlines the significance of history and tradition in influencing human behavior, and encourages using this to your advantage. The observance of the law involves blending change with tradition, using the past to legitimize and comfort those affected by reforms, and making sure that the changes appear to build upon existing values and rituals. The text cites various historical and contemporary examples, such as the manipulation of ancient texts in ancient China or creating an appearance of conformity to tradition while enacting significant changes. The keys to power outlined here involve understanding the duality of human psychology, acknowledging the power of the past, using tradition to disguise change, and being aware of the prevailing zeitgeist. It advises those seeking power to pay attention to the balance between change and tradition and to use appearances and symbols to maintain stability while implementing innovation. Finally, the text provides a reversal, which suggests that when recent history has been painful or harsh, associating with it can be self-destructive. Instead, one should create an appearance of sobriety, appropriateness, and familiarity to avoid creating a void or vacuum that breeds fear. The text also points out that the arts, fashion, and technology can benefit from blending change with tradition to create lasting appeal and power. The passage titled Law 46, Never Appear Too Perfect from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power advises individuals on how to navigate envy and maintain power. The central message is to avoid appearing too perfect or flawless because this can breed envy and create silent enemies. Instead, it's recommended to occasionally display defects or admit to harmless vices to appear more human and approachable. The passage illustrates this law with historical examples, including the story of Joe Orton and Kenneth Halliwell, and the rise of the Medici family in Florence. In the case of Joe Orton and Kenneth Halliwell, envy led to a tragic outcome, with Halliwell ultimately killing Orton due to his envy of Orton's success and popularity. The passage suggests that Orton could have deflected Halliwell's envy by downplaying his success or distancing himself from Halliwell. The Medici family's rise to power in Florence is also discussed, highlighting how Cosimo de' Medici used strategies to avoid creating envy and maintain power. He presented himself modestly in public, concealed the extent of his influence, and made alliances with those below him. The passage concludes by emphasizing the importance of being aware of envy and its potential consequences. It advises individuals to be cautious about the actions and qualities that may trigger envy and to take steps to avoid it before it becomes a problem. The text also mentions the role of envy in various historical contexts, showing how it can lead to both personal and political conflicts. Overall, the passage offers guidance on how to handle envy and maintain power by managing one's image and relationships. The passage discusses the concept of envy, especially in the context of those who hold power or are successful. It provides various strategies for dealing with envy and avoiding its negative consequences. These strategies include downplaying one's achievements, portraying success as luck, displaying humility and self-sacrifice, and even giving into public insistence to gain power. The text also advises that excessive praise and excessive criticism can be disguised forms of envy and suggests ignoring those who envy you. It warns about environments and societies where envy is prevalent and provides examples of historical figures who effectively handled envy. Furthermore, it mentions the idea of occasionally revealing a harmless character flaw to disarm envy and how triumphing over envy can be achieved by displaying disdain for those who envy you and showcasing your success. The passage concludes with a historical example of Michelangelo turning the envy of architect Bramante into a driving force for his greatest work, the Sistine Chapel. In summary, the passage explores the psychology of envy and offers strategies for managing and even capitalizing on envy in various social and professional contexts. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. This law emphasizes the importance of knowing when to stop after achieving a victory to prevent overextending and making unnecessary enemies. It uses historical examples to illustrate the perils of overconfidence and overreach in moments of success. The text also stresses the need for self-control and strategy after a triumph, rather than letting the thrill of victory cloud judgment. It concludes by warning against the dangers of good luck and the need to prepare for the inevitable reversal of fortune. The key lesson is that success can be intoxicating and dangerous, and the truly powerful individuals are those who can control their impulses, adapt to changing circumstances, and refrain from pushing their victories too far. The law advises that it is often more effective to win the favor of a master or superior by measured success, and to know when to stop after a triumph. In essence, it underscores the importance of strategic thinking and self-control in the realm of power, and how a moment of triumph is a critical time to exercise these qualities. The passage discusses the concept of formlessness in various contexts, emphasizing the importance of adaptability and change in maintaining power and influence. It provides historical examples, including the Spartans' rigid approach leading to their downfall, the Chinese communists' strategic flexibility against the nationalists, and the use of the game of Go as a metaphor for fluid, indirect warfare. The central idea is that being formless, like water or mercury, allows one to be unpredictable and elusive, making it challenging for adversaries to anticipate and counter one's actions. This formlessness is presented as a source of power, and the text highlights the dangers of rigidity and a failure to adapt in the face of change. The passage discusses the concept of character armor, which is a psychological adaptation to cope with the demands of the modern world. It describes how the ego becomes rigid and acquires a chronic mode of reaction, leading to the development of a person's character. The text also discusses the importance of formlessness as a strategic approach, drawing examples from history and highlighting its effectiveness in warfare and leadership. Formlessness involves being adaptable, not taking things personally, and using unpredictability to gain an advantage. The passage emphasizes that as people age, they should rely less on the past and adapt to new circumstances to maintain their power and avoid becoming rigid and predictable. Additionally, it touches on the importance of concentration and power when engaging with enemies after using formlessness.